budget meeting. Well, Ryan has pointers, so he likes to write the
All right, we're going to call the school board calls this meeting to order.
Board of Supervisors call this meeting to order. I do want to say that Mr. Whitson and Mr. Carney are not here this evening. Now, on to the opening comments by Board of Supervisors. Ms. Smith, you want to start?
Thanks everybody for joining us this evening. I'm glad the weather cooperated so we can get together and get started on our joint work session. Thank you everyone for attending this evening.
Ms. Comer?
Yes, it's very good to see everyone this evening and braving the cold. I'm excited to, excited might not be the right word. I'm anxious and looking forward to kicking off this budget season with my school board peers.
And I am happy to be here as well. It is warm, it is bright. We're closer together than we have been in the past, which I actually like. So I look forward to hearing everything the school board and superintendent have to show us this evening.
All right, we're going to say our pledge.
Salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. A motion to adopt the agenda by the school board.
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Newton, is there a second? Second, Mr. Grove, is there any comment? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. Ms. Ward.
Motion by the Board of Supervisors to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Aye.
Any discussion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Liaison. Ms. Kell?
Hi, this is the members of the school board and board of supervisors, members of the staff, teachers, family, friends, thank you for coming. The last time I was in this room was a year ago around this time, and I remember just feeling so nervous and excited to be the student liaison for our CHS. And now, after serving my school for the past year, I'm filled with just this immense sense of satisfaction and pride for all the things that I've been able to, that have been accomplished by the students for our CHS that I've been able to bring to you this past year. As we're ready to graduate high school and leave behind these comforting halls, and I've been thinking more and more about what I've contributed to my community. And I'm really proud to be able to look back and remember helping my peers in such a direct way. The closer I get to graduation, the more I also think about all the friends that I've made that I'll be leaving behind as I take these next steps into adulthood. One of those friends is Ruth Cassette. When I met this girl last year, she was just this little 10th grader in my pre-calculus class, and now, when I look at Ruth, I not only see the sweet girl that I met, but the strong woman that she's become. Ruth Cassette is the smartest, kindest, and most driven person I know. She has a special talent for brightening a room and making everything more fun. She is not only a member of the NHS, but also the treasurer of the NHS, but also a member of the Scholastic Bowl and many more clubs that I didn't even know about. When I was asked who I thought would make the best student liaison for this coming year, Ruth Cassette was the first person that came to mind. I'm so excited for you all to get to know her, and hopefully you will love her just as much as I do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it works. Yay. Okay. Hi. Good evening, esteemed members of the school board, teachers, staff, faculty, friends, family, and anyone else who may be in attendance. Yes, as Natalie said, I am very grateful to have this position. My name is Ruth Cassette. I am a junior at Rappahannock County High School. I have been attending for 2 years, and quite frankly, I was not expecting to get this position. I remember when Dr. Boynton sent out the email, like, hey, we're in need of a new student liaison, I simply remember typing, I am interested, period, send. And then the next day or something, I was like, oh, I got an email that I got the position. I was like, oh, so this is awesome. So I figured I'd just do a bit of an introduction to sort of kick everything off, if that makes sense. Sure. Okay, wow, this is pretty good. Okay, so as Natalie said, I am a member of the scholastical team, and I am the treasurer for the National Honor Society at Rappahannock County High School. I am also the treasurer for the Student Council Association and the class of 2026. And in addition, I am now the student school board liaison for Rappahannock County High School. I'm a student advisory committee member, a committee that was kind of like, I don't know how to say it, to advise the principal, Dr. Boynton, on matters that members of the student body want to be, let's say, participatory in. So I'm a member of that now. I'm an unofficial member of Leo Club, and I'm also a member of the prom committee. So I've held some leadership, some otherwise positions in my school, and I'm very glad to add this one to my repertoire. So I'm also a member of the RCHS Unity and Chorus Club. I remember at the Veterans Assembly, I remember seeing you there, and that was awesome to be able to work with you there. As I said, I am a member of the Scholastic Bowl team. We just recently competed at the super region level. Last year I earned all district. I did the same thing this year, first team all district, and thank you. And actually was able to have the honor of making first team all super region this last Friday, the Friday or Saturday, the 15th or 16th, I believe. So yes, that's awesome. And so once again, I am very grateful to be a part of this. Very unexpected with all the NHS, SEA, what else is there? Yes, class 2026, Leo, SAC, and part of the prom committee. I did not think that there's like nothing else to be done, and then I get this, and there is something else to be done, and that's amazing. And so I'm very glad to be here with you all today. So I thought, just to kick it off, I'd just share some recent happenings at school. And so starting with sports, and there's a lot of them. We have a very strong sports community here at the school. Our JV girls basketball, their season just ended. JV boys basketball, they're going to the district championship on Thursday. Yes, girls varsity basketball will be playing in the district semifinals tonight at 7:30 actually. I think at Clark County, if I'm correct. Yep. At Clark County? Yep. Yes, okay. If they win that, they'll be playing in the district championship this Thursday, one right after another. And then if they do well in that, they could be playing on February 24th in the regional quarterfinals here, that is at the high school at the home game against Franklin County, so wishing all the best for them. Varsity boys basketball, they're playing at the regional quarterfinals this Friday. I'm not quite sure where or when, but they've done very well this season also. That's a lot of basketball. So varsity wrestling, they ended their season at the regional championship last Friday. I'm sure they did very well. I don't know anyone who does wrestling, but if anyone does know anyone who did wrestling, they did very, very well. Indoor track, they had a regional championship yesterday, and 3 of our students, Haley Valley, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Cameron Reeder, and Harrison King, they're all advancing to states on March 5th and 6th at Liberty University, and respectively, the girls indoor track team placed 4th, and the boys indoor track team placed 7th at the regional championship, so they did very well. They did very well also, yes. I remember Scholastic Bowl. I'm going to talk about Scholastic Bowl. We had a super region tournament on Saturday. Yes, we did not win, but we did very well, and that was the end of our season. So I'm very much looking forward to next season, hopefully making it to states next year. But for what it was, this season was very good. We did very well. I think our win-loss record was 10-2 or something along that line. So it was a very good season. Yes. In other news, spring sports tryouts, those are starting next Monday with junior varsity and varsity baseball, softball, soccer, and middle school and varsity outdoor track, all having tryouts during that week. On the other hand, middle school baseball and softball will have their tryouts starting on March 3rd, or sometime around there. so that's enough for sports, 'cause I've been talking a lot about that. And so now with Leo Club, they have been doing very well also this year. In December and January, mainly over Christmas break, they were doing a hygiene drive for SAFE, which I believe is Services for Abused Families, especially women. And so that was a massive success. I remember seeing the box of like donations and products in the library, and it was stacked to the brim. They did very well in that. This Saturday, actually, they'll be helping to volunteer at a Lions Club event. So I'm very much looking forward to that, and anything else that they may be doing in the near or not so near future. As for the National Honor Society, I am a member of that, and so I can say that either on the second, third, or fourth Tuesday, it pretty much varies on every month, we do this thing called the coffee cart or coffee hot chocolate cider, depending on the season. We do this cart for teachers have you been mentioned before? I'm not sure if I'm just introducing this for the first time.
That's great, go ahead.
Okay, yay. So we do this thing called the coffee cart every second, third, fourth Tuesday. Basically, you take some coffee, you take some hot chocolate, you go around to the teachers, they love it, and so we've kind of supposed to be doing this for the rest of the year, unless there's delays or cancellations due to weather. I think we were supposed to do it this Tuesday, but it was an off day. This Tuesday, yes, that's today. That was an off day, so we'll be doing that. We will be doing that next Tuesday, if my memory serves me right. And then NHS, we've also been trying to do a service project for Project Linus, which is making fabric blankets, because like Charlie Brown, Linus, the one that always tried to blank behind him, yes, him for Project Linus for kids that are between like ages 0 or like infants, or between like infants and 17 or 18, who are very ill, very traumatized, just in need of help. And we were trying to make blankets for that. We're having some trouble finding like a specific meeting time because we don't have seminar anymore. We have the flex block instead. So we're hitting some bumps in the road on that, but otherwise we've been doing very well. In regards to fundraisers, there haven't been too many going on this semester and just recently, but just this last week during Valentine's Week, the 9th graders had a flower sale in collaboration with Mr. Nazer and Miss Phillips, I believe, the new biology teacher, and they sold roses, carnations, and alströmerias. I really hope I'm pronouncing that one correctly as well, but that did very well. I remember going to Mr. Nazer's room because that's my 3rd block class, and there's on the side of the wall all these flowers and then some notes, and then there's always these things like, hey, we got more sales. Like, wow, they're doing really well. So 9th grade fundraising is coming along very well. There haven't been very many fundraisers for other programs, classes otherwise, but yes, in that. And in other news around the school, I guess that could be said, our library has done a blind date with a book thing. So during Valentine's, there's just a random book. You don't have a title, you don't have a cover, you don't have an author. You check the book out and you read it, and hopefully you like it. So the library has been doing that. The Pathways Academy for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, which I believe is a very good opportunity to help just like ease into adulthood a bit. So the students will be going, I think, to UVA for a little while to learn like how to sew, some basic etiquette skills, how to change a tire, how to cook, and just all that sort of thing to help ease the transition from adolescence into adulthood. So those spots have been filling up very, very quickly within, I think, a week. I'm not sure if they're all filled or not, but are they? Yes, so that's been a massive success, and it's been going on for quite some time now. And Spark Camp for, I think, the 11th and 12th graders, giving the 11th and 12th graders an opportunity to be camp counselors for 3 or 4 weeks in the summer. That has also been going very well. I personally am not involved with that, so I'm not completely certain about how many spaces are left, how far along they are in like the application process, or whether people have already been hired as counselors. And then for the 11th graders, we have this new thing called the JUMP program, which helps you get a jump start on senior year, which I believe that will begin meeting on Mondays or Wednesdays once a month. And so that has been going very well so far, or at least the idea of it. And then a while ago, we had both aviation opportunities for kids who were interested in learning how to become pilots, and martial arts opportunities for people who are interested in learning self-defense. So I think those generated quite some interest as well. And then after that, that's all the recent happenings. And so not too long ago, I also managed to get some, I guess, like student feedback on like, what do you want to tell the school board? Because I'm not really sure what else I was supposed to ask them. So I just asked them some basic questions and just some things like overall with regards to what they believe could be improved, or what they're content with, what they're not. Some things that were mentioned were that many of the students think that the technology at school is unreliable and some struggle with completing their assignments, especially if they bring home computers or they don't use their school Chromebooks very often for a myriad of reasons. So that's one thing. Many of the students think the technology is unreliable, especially the internet connection in various places, especially the cafeteria. Many have been talking about that, like, hey, we can't do our work in the cafeteria before or after school or during lunch, that sort of thing. Another thing that I ran into, which I found surprising, some students worry that they do or don't at various times feel supported by their teachers completely, and I was like, oh, I should probably say that, because that's kind of a big thing. We want to ensure that all our students feel like included and safe and able to have a connection with their teachers inside and outside the classroom. So that was something that I wanted to bring up. Yes, there are also some issues about bullying that have been brought up, which many people said was like mostly like the 8th and 9th graders, like I guess fooling around with each other. They're like just like middle school stuff. Middle school's transitioning into high school, and of course they say it's minor now, but it's always a don't want to let it spiral. So that I wanted to bring to your attention as well. And in other news, some juniors were saying that they enjoy the college preparation process, but they wish there had just been more emphasis on it during the junior year, since we are now like pretty much 2/3-ish of the way through the school year. So many students are like, I feel like I'm going to be overwhelmed during senior year with all the things that happen in that one year, and they're thinking maybe some more opportunities could be in for junior year. And then there were also some random things like the TV in the cafeteria, like sports, and then some just other random little things. So yes, I think that's all I have to say for now. I don't have anything else written down. So are there any questions or concerns that you want to ask me about, or no?
I would just mention there's one other fundraiser that got postponed that was going to, it's for band. So I don't know if there are signs up around school yet for that, but
I think that was one that came out in the
it's going to be
news.
March, so just everybody knows you can support the band at mini golf, and I think it's like the 14th or 15th. That's the only
I think that was the one that got sent out in the newsletter that got,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was canceled. So, but
Okay.
but it's postponed. So
Oh, okay.
still
That's good to know. Yes.
Thank you for your
Yes.
report.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions, but very well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I can see why
Thank you.
Ms. Campbell thought of you first.
Yes.
Thank you so
I can
much.
see
It really
that.
is an honor
Yeah,
to be
well
doing
done.
this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Not sure how she has time for classes.
I don't know.
Very
I
impressive.
look
I
forward
do
to
somehow.
hearing from you in the future.
Yes, likewise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Ruth.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very well done. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, so Natalie, before you head out also, we do want to recognize you for your service as our school board student liaison for the past year. So the school board and I have a little gift for you.
Well, it's a photo moment.
We'll come around.
Oh, it's right there.
Can we stand up here? Thank you.
Hey, Ruth, one more thing for you to know. We need you to know not to feel constrained or embarrassed to get up and walk out. If you need to go home, and if you need to do homework, you're one person with a lot of legitimate reasons to bug out. And so don't feel like you can't, right, when you do your thing. So, but you're welcome to stay and enjoy government if you want. Right. All right, thank you. School board, board appreciation month.
Yes, so you may have noticed as you walked in that there are signs and posters and cards all over the table, and it is the VSBA School Board Appreciation Month, and we every year use our February joint meeting to recognize the hard work of our school board and board of supervisors members. We do appreciate all the work that you do. It can be a thankless job, and it takes a lot of time and effort on your part that, does not go unseen. So on behalf of our CPS, we thank you so much for all you do.
That's good. Back here, I'm a pirate back here. Both Mr. Rubin and Ms. Bynum, we're pirates. I don't know how the rest of you got out.
So creative.
Anyway, that's what I'd look like if I was a pirate. Good. So, information items.
Yes, Mr.
Easier.
Chairman and Madam Chair. The SIFT update at this point, Mr. Curry and I have been working hand in hand with the lobbyist throughout phase 1 and phase 2. We are still in phase 2 going through the motions with the lobbyists at this point. We did want to recognize the community members who raised the entirety of the phase 2 amount that we were looking for funding the lobbyist effort. I did include on here just key budget policy choices that the committees and the conferees are looking at between the governor's budget and the Senate and the House. So you can see the key differences in those. But of course, our battle is with the supplemental basic aid cap, which would not be on this sheet, but you can kind of see the differences in what their priorities are.
Well, and I think further to what Dr. Grimsley noted, we know that every year we get minimal additional funding, if any, and there are several new requirements that the General Assembly thinks are important for school divisions to cover with their student population. And so this year is no different, and it's possible that our obligations will exceed our excess revenue if we're not successful with the supplemental basic aid. And so we remain hopeful that'll come through. But like every other year, there's a dose of realism that we need to find a way to proceed if it doesn't come through. And so difficult choices will have to be made for sure.
Yes, and there were there's a lot of energy and attention and major investments in education this year in both chambers. And then when we were asked by the lobbyists and a few of the members after they had passed each chamber passed their individual budgets, well, how much did those give you all for your, lifting the support cap, not supplemental basic aid, support cap, and the special education add-on? Like $13,000.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was a major investment for Rappahannock. So that really kind of blew their mind and gave them a sense of, wow, we just put all of that effort and all that time and all that funding into those amendments to do that, and Rappahannock only gets $13,000 out of it. So we continue the conversation with real numbers, real data, talking to a lot of members, and we'll see how the conference budget comes out, and we'll go from there.
When you told them 13,000, were they interested in why it was 13,000? Or are they
Other than all the things that we've been telling them for months. Yeah, I mean, it was astonishing to them because I think when they're making investments of that magnitude, they don't fully realize when it's tied to basic aid how singularly impacted Rappahannock is until it's something that they've worked on individually in their chamber with the budget. So I think that's been useful. It's just time consuming, and it goes through the motions of each iteration of the budget cycle.
School board members and board members can understand that you oftentimes get overwhelmed with the amount of information that's coming your way. And General Assembly members receive a lot of information. And to understand the realities of what is happening in a small county, a tiny school division, it's tough to be able to convey the story to them in a way that catches their attention and makes sense. And I think we've done a much better job this year in doing that, and particularly after some of the budget information came out and being able to understand $13,000, things like that are very understandable to any person on the street, and particularly for a General Assembly person. So we're working hard to make sure that the conferees who are in charge of the budget at this point understand in a kind of a real, tangible way what these things mean to our division, and hopeful that they recognize and can help us out.
Yeah, when I was in Richmond, there was voiced in the committee where I testified about a different bill that would have removed our basic aid cap. There's sort of a misconception that if you lift that cap, you're taking something away from other people, and that's not my understanding of how a basic aid cap works. And it was someone who was trying, I think, would like to solve the problem in some way, but I don't think that, as you're describing, I don't think the nuts and bolts of how it works are very clear. And so I really appreciate the continued, we're all making efforts. It's difficult to repeat the same thing again and again, and hopefully we get better results.
And I do want to say, our representatives are very clear and understand very well, Delegate Weber and Senator Reeves understand our situation, and they have been working hard for us, but two individuals don't control our destiny.
No.
Well, they may, but not those two.
Yeah. So that's the update we have at this time, but of course we'll keep everybody posted, especially after we find out sometime, hopefully next week, more clarity on the conference budget.
We've never been this prepared and educated people better than we have this cycle. And I mean, our case is strong, and so hopefully things will turn around. But we can't live expecting like they will. So.
The next item was a point of interest that's been brought up before about HR and recruitment, retention. That's a major goal of ours in our comprehensive plan. Michelle Berta, our human resources specialist and executive assistant to the superintendent and deputy school board clerk, have multiple job roles, was going to give this presentation this evening. Unfortunately, took ill yesterday and can't be here, and she feels so bad. She's been working on this for a while. However, she did send me her very good notes, so I'll do my best to go through the presentation. So good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss one of the most important aspects of our school division. I'm going to channel her as though she's here. Michelle, the most important aspects of our school division are our people. As HR coordinator, Michelle has the privilege of working with these dedicated educators and staff who make the schools a place of learning, growth, and community. So it's not just about the numbers, but the story behind the numbers. We have faced recruitment and retention challenges, but we remain steadfast in our mission to recruit and retain a premier workforce dedicated to fostering educational excellence, continuous improvement, and a compassionate learning environment, which is directly out of our comprehensive plan as our major overarching goal. This slide goes through our strategic goals for ensuring every classroom and school function is staffed with high-quality professionals who are not only skilled but also deeply committed to our students. They've structured the work around 4 key strategies. Providing competitive salary and benefits and incentives to recruit, retain high-quality staff, which is always at budget time a challenge for us, being nestled right where we are in, right next to Northern Virginia, which is a very difficult challenge. True story, we did get an applicant that I was very excited about for next year, and when we saw the salary we would have to match from that person, it was much more than my principals make for a teacher. So I said, so sorry, I don't think that's going to work. But so yes, that is a struggle for us. Providing financial assistance for relocating or sign-on bonuses for hard-to-fill positions. We have been able to manage to do that and have met that objective through the use of Title II federal funding as well as our REACH and best-in-class grants. So that's all grant funded. And expanding incentive programs for new recruits to include innovative fringe benefits and establishing milestone bonuses at 5 or 10-year increments to retain staff. That's the third objective that we're working towards. But of course, looking for funding for those.
Is that REACH program, is that a local program?
It is.
Right.
REACH is a local.
I'm not sure the Board of Supervisors understands or recalls that program.
Yes. It was formerly a best-in-class grant, teacher wellness grant, and it's now the REACH program, which combines a lot of different efforts into that same goal through the comprehensive plan. Strategy 2, enhance recruiting efforts in order to cast a wider net for attracting potential candidates. So attending the career fairs outside of our typical regional proximity zone has been really helpful. In fact, one of the recruitment fairs that we've gotten quite a bit of success from is PERC in Pennsylvania, which you wouldn't think that we would get too many there, but we do get interest there and some applicants. And then Laurel Ridge was a good one recently too that we were able to get some interest from as well. But our RCPS administrators and different staff attend different career fairs, expenses paid through Title II usually, which is our federal funding that helps us with recruitment and retention. We're establishing more robust hiring, onboarding, and performance management and compensation management systems. So Michelle's done a great job with Stacy, who also has a piece of this and is also ill. So, she is not able to be here either. Stacy Witt, our CFO. They've worked hand in hand trying to unify the financial management system with our hiring, onboarding, and monitoring system for staff, which has been going really well, actually. And there's a lot more that we can do with it, but we have to peel away each piece at a time and train everybody then before moving to the next phase. So we've been working through that. Cultivating a workplace environment where educational professionals, support staff, and classified employees realize their impact on student achievement and strive to reach their fullest professional potential. Cultivating a strong workplace culture that prioritizes morale, inclusivity, and professional development is one of the goals in that area as well. We work very hard cultivating a culture of appreciation and family. Things like the farmers market and pop-up lunches, employee feedback opportunities, professional development opportunities for every employee are ways that we help to professionally grow our staff and also provide a safe learning environment for them as well. This slide goes through our turnover rates. Over the past year, we did see our turnover rate rise to 14%, which was actually up from 8% the previous year. This increase aligns with national and state trends as many districts are struggling to retain educators due to a variety of economic and professional pressures. Retirement remains a leading factor in our turnover rates, which is a natural part of workforce evolution. Turnover remained low for the previous years as well, retirement remaining as the leading factor. Oh, there's Bobby Baldwin. While this increase is concerning, it's also important to recognize a key success. We did fill every open position despite these challenges, and that means that none of our classrooms were left without teachers and no critical support roles were unfilled. When comparing turnover rates across the region, it's important to note that data is incomplete and not everybody did give us the data of turnover rates. It makes it difficult to draw direct comparisons, but we do continue to use the available data to assess trends and refine our strategies.
So the competition for talent among all these divisions listed, I guess maybe they're a little protective and don't want to let other people know?
Sometimes, yes. And we do sit on some regional work groups and things where we do share some information. But with the shortage, during open season for teachers, it is every man for himself. And we'll try to get whoever we can get during that time frame. So it is difficult. And we try to see what other counties are doing for their compensation packages, what insurance, what fringe benefits, so we can try to have a competitive edge as much as we can. But of course, with these districts in Region 4, you can see why that's difficult. This combined chart for the 2024 onboarding survey results show that categories communication, clarity, orientation, satisfaction, resource helpfulness, team support, job match expectation, and hiring process overall indicate that our onboarding process is highly effective, providing new hires with a positive and supportive transition into our school system. And that's important data to have. We want to make sure that the systems that we are implementing are effective and efficient, and that they're accessible to our new employees as they're going through. Let's see where I'm here. This graph illustrates our recruitment of both new and experienced teachers over the past 5 years. I know this was a specific question that's been brought up before in supervisors meetings. It highlights that we are attracting fresh talent to the profession and bringing in experienced educators who offer valuable expertise. The data shows that our commitment is in building a diverse teaching workforce capable of meeting the varied needs of our students. But typically what you are seeing is that the majority of our new hires are within the first few years of their teaching experience. Once in a while we do get very fortunate and get some veteran applicants and veteran teachers and administrators, but that's very difficult with the competition. But primarily that's where we do attract new teachers in those first 4 years. And that does have an added cost. You know, when you have brand new talent coming into the profession, it does take quite a bit of time to not only acclimate those people to your culture and Rappahannock and how the school functioning and operations go, but also to, you know, develop the profession and all the requirements and training and curriculum. And so there's an added hidden cost with that as well. Despite the challenges, though, we have a strong foundation to build upon. While we may not always be able to compete on salary alone, we do offer something that other districts cannot: the opportunity to be part of a close-knit, mission-driven community. Our recruitment and retention strategies will continue to evolve, but at the heart of it all is this simple truth that people don't just choose a job, they choose a place where they feel valued, supported, and inspired. As we move forward, Michelle Berta would encourage each of you to be ambassadors for our schools, as do I. Whether through word of mouth, community engagement, or simply sharing what makes our district special, you play a vital role in helping us attract and retain the best educators and staff. Together, we will continue to build a school system that not only meets the needs of today, but prepares for the challenges of tomorrow. She would like to thank you for your time, your commitment, and your continued support of our educators and our students. Do you have any questions that I might be able to answer for you?
Will you remind me, I think the program was just started last year. I know the governor announced it, where it was either the high school seniors or early into like Laurel Ridge, they could actually start teaching or something. There's a new program.
Yes, so the Future Educators Academy began last year, began this year. We applied for the planning grant last year in partnership with Germanna Community College and 4 other districts, Orange, Madison, and Culpeper, and us. And we received that planning grant to develop a lab school around addressing the teacher shortage through basically a governor's school type model for educators and preparing your own and building off of the grow your own idea and concept. So that has been going on this year, was our first group of students going to Germanna. Next year they will be going to Laurel Ridge and continuing that program. They get their associate's degree in 2 years. And then they get to go on in 2 years and get their bachelor's and teaching license, and then they are afforded an opportunity to work in one of those districts who are the partners of that program.
Do you know how many students are taking advantage of that
And
from here?
From Rappahannock, 3.
3?
For the first, yeah.
Okay.
It is a big commitment. It's, you know, and it is a very rigorous schedule, but you've got to know you want to be a teacher to do it, definitely. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to commend you on the recruitment effort. I know very well the workforce side of this, and all of your efforts are very creative and innovative and outside the box. And even I noticed the 3 who travel over 30 miles, as you're talking about. You know, newer recruits, I will tell you, studies show that those under the age of 30 will not travel more than 30 miles. So for you to catch any who are going to travel more than 30 miles, is impressive. So thank you for those efforts.
Thank you so much. Other questions? Okay. The next item is our capital improvement plan update. So I'm going to ask Dr. Bolt, who is not ill and sick and not going wood.
Don't anybody's reading.
Good job.
The lights are nervous.
I'll study right there. Lights go out with no movement. And it just doesn't seem fair to go after something that is so uplifting. Thank you all. I do this every year, and I feel like a broken record sometimes because I'm always asking, but there's always a need. So I just want to acknowledge that it is not the Robin Bolt show in the capital improvement plan. We met with the superintendent and the admin from both schools and the school board office and sort of went over what the key things we thought we would need. And that's how this plan came together. And you do have a copy, because it's hard to read on the thing, of the capital improvement.
Can you bend the microphone?
Yeah, make sure you're talking into that.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it was a team effort to come up with this, and everybody has a different idea, and it was nice to come together and decide what the important key parts were.
Well, and don't cut yourself short either, Dr. Bolt, because she did run analysis on a lot of the systems and coming up with the life cycle. She checked life cycles of major systems to say this is about when this will be due for upgrade. So it wasn't just, I think this would be good.
Right,
It was,
it's 1959,
data-driven.
it's time to update. That was pretty easy. The roofs, I did have someone come out and do an inspection of all the roofs to tell us what the life was left of the roofs, and that's what's guided us on that. And we'll get into more on that in the later slide.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is the capital improvement. Sorry for people in the audience. I put this year's, which we're in the middle of, but we've completed, so we're good. The big hiccup this year was the roof on the elementary school. We've had several leaks that we've been able to Band-Aid, but that rain we had for 2 weeks was not helpful, but it did show some flaws, so we were able to get that taken care of. But it's coming to the end of its life cycle, so we need to really start thinking seriously about something for it. And so that our 25-26, it has been added in there. And you'll see two costs, one for a metal roof, one for a shingles roof. Metal roofs last 40 to 50 years, shingles last 20 years. So in my opinion, it's more cost effective to do it now because 20 years from now, just think how much that metal roof's going to cost. So I know it's a big sum and it's a big ask. I don't know if I know the school board's aware of this, but I don't know if the board of supervisors is aware that I'm working with a company called Secure Solar that is, actually had the roofers out here last week that are giving the estimate for that. And the idea is that they cover the bulk of the roofing and then put solar panels on to recoup their money. So that's something that we're not tied to at this point. We're still looking into it. But the idea is a metal roof, much like the high school, where there's no drilling and they just clip on to those seams so that they don't go into the roof at all. But the way they recoup their money is from the energy they make from that. So again, I don't know what the final numbers are. I'll know within a week or two. But we are looking into that. Buses. We are currently operating 4 buses behind. The school district had come up with the board of supervisors a schedule to keep up to date on our buses. And there's 1 bus that is included in the current budget for us this year. And buses are now up to $165,000 a piece, which like 5 years ago they were 110. So that is only going up. So that's something to keep in mind also. So critical needs are the buses and the new roof. The classroom remodels can wait. Those are critical needs. And again, it comes with a significant price tag. And I'm hoping that Secure Solars, somehow we can work a deal so that it's not such a big hit for the county or the school district. Working with Mr. Curry, who is wonderful to work with. You guys have got a good one, let me tell you. The man he's very good at his job.
Come on. Don't ruin my reputation.
He tries to act all gruff, but he's just a big old softy in the end. So, before my time, this engineering firm, Simons, I can never say this.
Simmons, Rock Charlie, and Prince.
Rock Charlie, that's Rock Charlie gets me. And then I can say Prince, thank you. They did an assessment of all our HVAC. So I think it's time that we did an assessment of our HVAC because I know that the primary wing was done in the late 80s and that system needs to be redone. Boilers, they were done, I put it on that sheet, the years they were done, it was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Now, whether we need to replace the whole boiler or just the burners on the front, he will help us do that. The geothermal at the high school, that was done in 2000, so that's 24 years old. So it'd be nice to find out from an engineer his or her thoughts on that and see, they will do a budget and a cost analysis for us so we have a better picture. And that's it. Questions?
Where do we stand?
It's not a good place to be standing. I know, and the items that I oversee tend to be the big dollars things, and I know it's tough, but
It's no different than being a homeowner.
it's exactly right. It's just on a much larger scale. Yeah, and we've gotten. We have done better on preventative. HVAC. We had a couple issues earlier, but. I mean, all in all, it's not what it was because we do the preventive maintenance. We do the things that we know we need to do. But stuff happens, and it's beyond our control when you're dealing with things that are, 1987 pieces of equipment.
So the solar, if the solar plan is to our benefit, it's a decision that the Board of Supervisors will have to be involved in because it's a multi-year agreement. Which the school board does not have the authority to make. So once we get an idea from the solar company, it's going to be a joint decision. That's going to be a decision you're making, Board of Supervisors, and that we'll be implementing if that's the decision. So we'll know that by next month.
Yeah, hopefully. The snow really messed it up getting the roofers out here because they've been backed up. And they can't tell me whether it's going to be a break even. They cover all the cost, or we still have some costs associated with it. It just depends on when they do the analysis how much electricity they can produce over a 20-year period.
So they own the electricity for the 20 years?
Well, yes, and then it would come to us. Because we've looked at solar a couple times before, and it just wasn't to our benefit because it would have taken 30 years for us to make a profit on it. But this seems more reasonable, and it's a need that the district has, and it would save the taxpayers a significant amount of money.
So you're saying that if they would give us a suitable roof comparable to, if it works out as we hope it will.
It would be a roof like the high school has.
Roof,
and
yeah.
I also included in there, because on the roof assessment, the gym roof was done in the late 80s. And It's going to be, so we included that now. If we have to pull that back just to be able to get, it might be more cost effective just to have them do the roof here. Mm-hmm. And then we take care of that when that time comes. And we could do that we get $200,000 from the state every year for capital improvement, and that we could cover that with that a couple of years from now.
Yeah, it's exciting, especially if we could get a metal roof that could be a 50-year lifespan roof.
50 plus on those.
And we could have the added stability of energy prices from the solar.
We wouldn't get the energy savings.
We would not get the energy savings
because they'd be paying for the roof up front.
It would just be the roof. I see what you're saying. But it would be a free roof.
Exactly. Which we wouldn't have to wait 30 years to see a profit.
I see. It wouldn't be trickling in nickels and dimes. It would be all up front.
Yes.
Have you seen this done at any other school system?
Orange County did it. they did the solar, they didn't have them do the roof, but I talked to the facilities director in Orange County, and they did it and are happy with it. And I think Albemarle has one. There's several schools that have worked with this company.
And who maintains those then?
The solar panels,
Yeah.
well, they come with a warranty, and they're supposed to be good for like, I can't remember off the top, but they do. They take care of the, yes. And if we weren't doing the roof, and we were just doing the solar panels and getting that energy savings, it would be our responsibility to take them off if we had to repair the roof.
Okay.
But if with a metal roof that are clipped on, it's a much easier process.
And much less likely that you have to repair it if it's brand new.
Exactly, and they're not putting holes anywhere, so there aren't going to be leaks from that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you
for your work.
So much. Right. And then last report from the superintendent and county administrators, if you want to jump in at any point, please do, is our just annual budget building blocks presentation, just an overview of what goes into developing the budget at this point. Of course, everything that we do is grounded in our vision and mission to empower every student to reach his or her full potential. And the budget is the foundation for our Road to Remarkable comprehensive plan. We put a lot of, well, everybody did, a lot of stakeholder involvement and community support around building that comprehensive plan and all the different teams. So around those key priorities in Road to Remarkable is what our budget aims to do. And it is very strategic and data-driven in every aspect of what goes into putting those allocations in. Now, our key considerations at this point, and it's very preliminary, so I don't have real great numbers to share at this point, and I'm sure you don't either. Staff increases, what that will look like, the SOQ increases, depending upon which budget gets approved, enrollment and ADM, retaining, recruiting talented staff, advancements in technology, which we're always trying to keep up with, and you will hear more about our efforts in AI integration coming soon. Capital improvement needs, of course, and new state mandates. There's always a bunch. In fact, just this week there were 255 bills on the floor that might impact different aspects of our business. So.
When you say staff increases,
yes.
So if they change the SOQ requirements, it could demand that we hire different types of people to meet those requirements.
Yes.
And they're not in our current plan. So.
Yes, because our funding formula for K-12 education is a staffing ratio formula. So they change those ratios or mess with the numbers, and which a lot of these bills tend to do. That can add staff to your operations. So a good example of that is one that did go through last year, which was the ESL staffing provision based on level of English proficiency rather than full number of identified low English proficient students. So now, instead of just we have this many low English proficient students or identified as L's population, this is how many staff you get, period. Now, if you have so many that are at a level 1, for instance, now you might need additional staff. The ratio is much lower than it would be if you had level 4 or 5 or even formally language English proficient students, FLEP students. So that changes quite a bit. So that's just one example, and there are many of those that could happen at any time. But also, when we're talking about staff increases, it's also what the General Assembly says, that we provide staff SOQ raises in compensation. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Every year we do send out to the community a budget survey to get their ideas and what their priorities are to see in this budget. We had over 150 respondents, and just about half of those came from parents. So a great parent response. And I always like to do the rankings side by side, what last year's priorities were versus this year. The teacher, staff salaries, and benefits remain top 1 and 2. They have been, I think, for the past, 8 years since I've done this. Career and tech ed came up to 3rd place. Mental health, 4th. School safety, right at 5th again. Nutrition, STEM, Internships, dual enrollment, job shadowing came up on the list, which it hasn't been there before. Small class sizes, interestingly, dropped down on the list. And school capital and facilities upgrades. There were a lot of comments about that, probably from the timing of the survey in conjunction with the boiler issues. I imagine that had a little bit to do with it. All part of our plan. No, they're just kidding. It was not. So I did put some open-ended responses here, some key takeaways, recurring themes of teacher retention and compensation. Many respondents emphasizing salaries need to be competitive to retain our quality educators. School infrastructure improvements frequently mentioned, particularly heating, cooling systems, security and general facilities maintenance, mental health and student support services, necessary areas of funding, including counseling and social emotional learning programs. Career and tech internships, dual enrollment was a very strong priority, came up quite a bit. Smaller class sizes was still mentioned in the open-ended responses. Adequate staffing were emphasized to improve learning conditions. And then extracurricular support, athletics, and the arts. The arts came up quite a bit in this survey, which is great because that's in conjunction with our goals and our strategic plan right now to launch our Fine Arts Academy officially, which you will be seeing information about that this spring with an application and everything. So enrollment, average daily membership trends, this is what we're looking at. So coming up a little bit for our ADM, which is good to see. We do want to impact that in the positive direction. Overall enrollment pre-K through 12 at this point is 798 as of my creating this data chart from our school information system, and 757 students in K through 12, which is what your ADM is based on, your K-12 enrollment and average daily membership of that enrollment. So just some cost projections here. The governor's budget, I gave the school board this breakdown last month. This is what we're looking at if the governor's budget were adopted, which already the different chambers are taken apart a little bit. But we were looking at getting an additional $172,000 in state funding when all is said and done in the governor's budget. We did some benchmarking to the median across the board in these districts that we compare more to. So Clark, Culpeper, Fauquier, Frederick, Madison, Page, Orange, Shenandoah, and Warren. So we're not looking at your Loudons, Fairfax, but don't even bother. Yeah. Maybe if I took the admin scale and held it up to their two, then it might, still, it's incredible. So you can see we did fall off a bit with our beginning year salaries. We do a little bit better catching up later. We are doing some work to our teacher salary scale again, doing more compression work based on the benchmarking to the median and bringing up our first year teacher, because that's where we attract our new hires, and if we do have a higher turnover rate, that number is what everybody looks at.
Does this number, Dr. Grimsley, does that take into account the incentives that you mentioned earlier in the other presentation?
No, that is going to be a straight what the scale says for compensation. Those are the extra pieces we try to lure them in with. That hopefully gets their attention a little bit, but usually they gloss over that part in recruiting fairs.
Those don't get included in their salary number?
Not in their salary number, no.
Is there a way to get a sample of what that total package offer would look like to a new first-year hire?
Yeah, we do that math at the table too when we're with a candidate. So we do a comparison of where you are now, especially if they're in a different district. Do the math with travel. What do they pay for health insurance premiums? What do you get? Do you get tuition reimbursement? Do you get these? So when we do those type of comparisons. So we can work up a scenario in one of the upcoming work sessions if that'd be helpful.
I think that would be helpful because I'm sure that you work very hard to make it attractive, and it would be nice to have a better showcase than this number on the page.
Yes, ma'am, we can do that.
Thank you.
So what we're looking at this point, the governor's budget and both chambers do call for a 3% standards of quality increase for all instructional staff and SOQ required staff. The amendments in both chambers on top of the 3% also call for a $1,000 bonus. The Senate version would like to do that in fiscal year 25. The House budget would like to do that in fiscal year 26. Superintendents were surveyed about that, and we said, please, please, fiscal year 26, so we can plan for it. Otherwise, I'd be coming back to the supervisors to ask for money that's not been appropriated for that purpose. So just to give you a sense of what that would cost, a fiscal year 25 $1,000 bonus would cost $180,000, $181,000. Each of these increases is what it would cost with current staffing. That's not adding any additional positions or anything that we may have to do with any of those mandates. But these are the base numbers. We are planning on the advice of our health insurance consultant to look at maybe a 15% insurance increase. Looking at our claims and analysis locally and kind of purveying it, I don't think it'll be that high. I don't, but we have to, that's the number we usually go with the consultants at this point, so hopefully that'll come down. And VRS is at the same rate.
So on the revenue side, the state includes a 3% increase, and many localities who have an LCI of 0.8, in which there are maybe 7 others other than us, would then get 20% of that from the state. But the nature of our funding and our supplemental basic aid and the cap means that we will get 0. We will get nothing. And so every additional expense that comes through is 100% local. And that's another part of the messaging to our General Assembly representatives for them to understand. Because if our basic aid goes up a little bit, that just supplants the supplemental basic aid that we already get, and we get the same total amount of basic and supplemental basic aid together. So it's worse than we get only 18%. We get 0%.
Yeah. So until our basic aid far exceeds the amount that we would get, which is 1.129 million. So that's what the cap does. So your supplemental subsidy that they give us in that can never exceed the sum of that plus your basic aid from 2007 cannot exceed 1.1 million. So that's the issue.
Over the last several fiscal years, when there were multiple 5% increases, 7% increases, those were all funded locally, and it's no wonder that the local transfer had to increase because state revenue didn't increase at all.
So our priorities remain directly tied to our comprehensive plan. We have to keep our teachers and staff, recruitment, retention, and keep them as competitively compensated as we can, while also providing professional growth and development. Support student and staff mental health has been a priority for quite some time. Targeted support staffing this year is a need in our staffing analysis tools and the new mandates we're seeing, especially with special education needs and the implementation of Virginia Literacy Act. The amount of workload that has been added to current staffing it's pretty intense. So we may need to do some creative targeted support. And we would love it if the state put in additional reading specialists for schools, but they didn't do that, even though all of these implementations have to come out in the expansion of VLA all the way up through 8th grade. So we're trying to get creative in endorsements and micro-credentials for current staff, and hopefully can give them maybe a little added compensation to take on some of those roles. But what you get is a really hard-working, small, burnt-out staff when you keep doing that, and we keep adding roles to a lot of people, and sometimes money isn't even worth going for it because, yeah. But anyway, that's part of what we're looking at. AI, digital ethics, education, we've been making huge strides on that. And even more coming for the following years. We've already developed our AI literacy plan and staff development tools, working with a national consultant through the Virginia Association of School Superintendents, and we were selected as one of the cohorts. And I'm happy to say one of our pieces of work is actually an exemplar that they're going to be using in the state at a couple of upcoming conferences. So we're actually going to be sending, Dr. Bolton and I talked to Danny Driggers, who is our instructional technology resource teacher, and also teaches Bucks at the high school as well. But she did the lion's share of the work and attended the cohorts with us, and she's just done a great job and is working with staff as we speak, working through some of the AI tools available to teachers. And then, of course, capital improvement is always a conversation that we need to continue. Then we have your county budget schedule.
Yes, so my contribution to this presentation is the county's budget schedule. So we are, this week and next week, pretty much nose to the grindstone on developing the county administrator's recommended budget, which will be presented to the board on March 12th. And then you see there the whole host of various work sessions in March, followed by the budget and tax rate public hearing in April 21st at the courthouse this year, with budget adoption occurring thereafter.
Dr. Grimsley, your budget will be presented to the school board on March 11th, I believe.
Yes, right in conjunction.
And the compensation adjustments that Dr. Grimsley reported as being in the governor's budget and the various chamber budgets, those apply to us as well. So there's the 3% in the governor's budget and the two chambers' budgets relative to our constitutional officers and their employees. Again, as I have reminded you the last couple of years, and I'm sure Mr. Curry reminded you years before that, that 3% applies to the compensation board salaries, not the salaries that we actually pay in Rappahannock. So we all need to be cognizant of that as we are, getting funding in that is less than what some people are thinking is going to be on the expense side of the budget. So that's important.
We don't have a cap on our side.
Yeah. And the $1,000 bonus that Dr. Grimsley mentioned, that would apply to our constitutional officers and their employees as well, if the board chose to do that. Of course, if the board does not choose to do that, we would not get the state funding associated with it.
So it's not every employee, and so then there's a
Yes.
decision of whether you're going to give a bonus to some employees and be funded by the state, or all employees and be partially funded by the state.
Yes.
Super fun. Thank you. Any questions at this point?
Didn't the governor's budget have some sort of funding in for the buildings themselves, the schools?
Yes, so the governor's budget put in money for competitive grants for facilities improvement. We're still not sure how that will look, if there will be set allocations that you can apply for. So for instance, some of our state programs, even though you have to apply through a process, you still get a minimum amount that you will receive, or a division allocation, and then you compete for additional dollars. We have been pushing for something like that, so we at least get something, because in the competitive grant world, we're not that competitive with the numbers when we stack up against some of the other crumbling schools in Southwest Virginia who, get more of that.
And the metrics tend to be linked to an LCI or something
Usually
like that.
they do.
Which, while we know it's flawed,
Yeah.
it's the number they use.
Yes.
So I want to full circle back to the beginning of the conversation and the SIFT update. There's a possibility for additional revenue from the state. And so some of the internal conversations have been, because it's a very big unknown, probably the most appropriate place to apply that would be to capital. And because it could come, it could not come, it could be here for a year, it could be here for many years. And so as we continue to work through the budget, I would encourage the boards and the superintendent to think about that revenue as a way to tackle some of these big capital projects that were discussed, roofs and various other things. And then if we're fortunate, then we'll have a ready supply of revenue to back that up. If we're not, then we'll have to look to cash or borrowing or some other way to tackle those items. Or as many boards in the past, well before anybody sitting here have done, you just let the next board deal with it, which I wouldn't advise. Are there any questions for the superintendent, given where we're at? No? Anyone?
I have a question about grant monies and how you account for what your expectations should be to receive from grants in the course of a year.
and how you decide to reallocate or give back those monies. We had an instance where I know you used part of it this past year. You received a grant, freed up $10,000, I think, which was then in turn used for the lobbyist. And I had a lot of questions about that at the time, and I think this has happened in the past. And my recollection is in years past, sometimes there's been a narrative that included the amount that's included in the school budget that's funded by grants. And we don't have that information this year, and I want to make sure that, we're being as lean as we can.
Absolutely. No, that's actually a great question. We were afforded that unique opportunity this year because of a grant we applied for in the previous fiscal year cycle. Did not know that we would receive it in time for the budget development. Received it afterwards, so then it did free up that money. That's typically not the case. Usually those grant cycles run a little better with our fiscal years. We do try to, the ones that we do know about or have multi-year agreements, those are what gets built into the budget document up front. We are always applying for additional funding to help with offset whatever costs we can. A great example of that is our mental health team, almost fully grant funded other than our social worker. Every other staff member we have in services are all grants that we're continuously writing. So those are 4 different positions that are not locally funded because of the grant cycles. They are multi-year, so we'd be able to put that funding into the school budget. But that's also an interesting point too, because when we're looking at the bottom line, then I know everybody always brings up that bottom line budget, divide that whole fund by the number of students, and we're spending this much. But remember, when we write these grants, they're offset by expenses that go directly with that revenue. If you remove that revenue and the expenses, which they are contingent upon those, it's not something that, the grant programs we have are written in such a way that they are contingent on that revenue coming in. Should that revenue dry up or go away, then so does that program. So we write in such a way to protect it. So when you pull those out, the per pupil cost that the county local transfer puts in is much, much lower than what you might get if you use that bottom line. So that's an important point I want us to remember, because I hear that a lot in budget development every year, is that bottom line, because it looks so huge, but nearly 3 million of 2.4 million of our revenue this year was from grants. So that's going to be a discussion that you'll have to answer for. I know people will ask you about that. So remember, a lot of that is tied to programmatic contingent funds.
Would be good to have something substantial about that.
Yes, you will. In my budget report, that's where I outline all the grant programs, where the timeline and all of that. So you will have that in March.
And how, I know you all have, I think it's $150,000 invested in the broadband initiative that was included from the schools.
I think it was ESSER 3.
Yeah, ESSER 3.
Is there any jeopardy with that, with the extended timelines for the broadband installation, or is that not?
Not on our
timeline?
part. That program expired completely, so because of the way the agreement was written in with a long-term project, they allowed us to be able to make that agreement with the county at the time, knowing that it would be a project in the future.
So the commitment alone was enough?
Yes.
Not the installation?
Yes.
Very good.
It was enough for ESSER to try to get rid of those funds, I guess.
Wisely invest, I think you mean.
Yes.
Do you, looking at the community survey priorities, the jump on mental health from 8 to 4?
Yes.
Do you have any insight, I assume you do, on why that has jumped greatly?
Well, we are doing a more comprehensive study of that very thing, actually, but I would like to believe a lot of that is because of the resources being so accessible now, that people know about them, they're receiving them, they're seeing success with services, so they see the importance and vitality of those programs to the school culture. So that's what I've seen. And a lot of the comments did say to that effect, it's great to have these services, my child sees whoever, thank you so much, so I think there's that piece of it, but the need is definitely there, so.
Huge jump. The only other thing I have is on buses, and I showed you this when I came in.
I remember this.
It's from 2013, Rappahannock News, and on the front page is school board eyes 10 buses. At the time, the bus was $77,000 each, and
I don't want, if there's a way to do what we do for the sheriff's department with the pay-go 2 cars every year, I don't think it's wise for us to wait as a county for 10 buses to go bad and need to be replaced. Somehow, we've got to figure out a plan that even though it may be painful, if you pay now, it's going to be a lot less painful than if you wait to buy 10 in 10 years. And so I don't know how we do that or what the plan can be, but I would much rather buy 2 than 10.
2 every year than 10.
Yeah.
It works out really well if you buy 1 a year.
Yeah.
1 a year.
And have the conviction to do it all the way through the budget for both the school board and the board of supervisors.
Right.
And it's difficult when that bounces up against potentially, necessary tax rate implications.
Right.
The other interesting part of this article was that the budget was at 12.47 million for the school, and I assume that was because the ADM was in the low 800s. But again, it's 2013. I know we've been talking about 100 and some children at the CCLC. So I think growth is around the corner, and I want to make sure we're not thinking we're always going to be in the 700s.
Back then, the transfer also included debt service payments for a couple bonds, and so it's not totally apples to apples.
Yep. But it caught my eye as I was cleaning out my
But
desk.
it is a good plan to put a bus in the budget and always have 1 bus in the budget. And then you just deal with whatever the increased costs of buses are over time. That way it's built in. And you have to have the discipline to leave it alone. too.
I did wonder, now that Chair Donahue brought it back up, is the 150 respondents low for the survey? It seems like, that's less, 5% or less of county residents and possibly multiple people within a household responding to it. And that could account for a lot of the variety that you're seeing in your responses.
Definitely. I would say it's pretty high for this type of a survey for the school community. As the community as a whole, yeah, correct. It's not as high as we might want to see it. But for our school community and over half of them being parents, that's a pretty good rate on a survey of this type.
And I noticed that what is it? This 22% identified themselves as community members.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, which I thought was pretty high for, relatively speaking. I don't have any questions, just a couple of comments as we start down this path, these next few weeks and months. As you and I talked about, we definitely, the county as a whole has some really big projects before us. So we're going to have to be smart and careful and all work together. A couple of things that I think it's important that the community understand. I'm looking at these salary wages, and Rappahannock for a new teacher is $46,000 a year, and we went through your presentation and how you're recruiting, and we talked about those who are under the age of 30. Studies show that those under the age of 30 are not going to travel more than 30 miles. So it's going to be hard to catch people outside of our county. I want to point out, like I said, I think it's important that our community understand the living wage in Rappahannock County is $51,000 a year. What that means is for little Johnny to graduate high school and launch, move out of mom's basement, and pay all the basic bills, costs, he needs to make $51,000 a year. So I don't know the answers, but I just want to point out that here we spend all this time, there are lots of people pressuring, we need better teachers, we need stronger recruitment, you need to do this, we need better talent, and there's something, a little wonky there, and it's not unique to Rappahannock. I should say that the living wage in Fauquier County is $57,000 a year. So you look at their $50,000 a year for that new teacher, but that should definitely tell you it's going to be harder convince little Johnny, who lives in Fauquier County, to come teach in Rappahannock County for 46. So I think those, as I said, as we start down this budget season, we all work together and we all understand that it's going to be a season of tightening our belts. We just do, as a wise man said to me recently, Mr. Mills, yeah, you all do the best you can, and we do the best we can, and we all trust that we're keeping the good of Rappahannock County in the forefront of our minds.
I'd like to take credit for that, but that was Brian Lee. Brian Lee told me that back in probably 2001 when he was on the Board of Supervisors, and it's true. It's always true. We are going to do the best we can, and we just ask you all to do the best you can. I was going to mention, since I started talking, might as well finish, right? This page that has these salary increases on it, the board has a philosophy that for years what we've done is we've said, hey, we're going to cover the cost of the insurance increase, and so it doesn't impact our staff, and we're going to get you a 3% raise. And I believe, and of course we put out a survey to the staff to see what their thoughts are about this philosophy, because they might not agree, but the thought was to stop that, because what we're doing is we're artificially stagnating salaries, but basically plan to give them a 3% raise without taking it immediately back. So if you look at these numbers, a 3% raise would be consumed primarily with the health insurance increase, and they would end up with nothing. So the idea was, and the motivation of the board was, let's make sure that our staff take home 3%, and that is the direction that we're headed, but it's not 3% that we're immediately going to take back. So our motivation is to give them enough to cover the increase and actually realize a gain. So I just wanted to make sure we're clear about that, because we'll be making the decisions in the coming month, and what it is we're going to send across the street to you. And I wanted you to know what was behind that, if that made sense. Did it make sense, everybody? Did you understand what I said? Did you hear me?
Understand what you meant.
You understand what I meant?
What you meant.
You understand what I meant, not what I said. Okay. Anyway.
I think that with what Ms. Comer just said, I just wanted to, it reminded me of this previous presentation that Dr. Grimsley just gave, where over 25% of the people who left us last year said it was a salary reason, which was not a very big reason the previous year. So it does give us, we've been talking on the school board a lot about just the way, what was illustrated. Donnie really put that out well, but I mean, that is this very significant increase to me when it's almost, it's not quite double the turnover rate, but then also a quarter of those people cited salary as their reason for leaving. That should raise some alarms for all of us who care about the schools and care about retaining people. Like that seems like I don't want that trend to be, because when you see 21, 22 in the chart you gave us, there's no one who said that salary was the reason that they retired. And then there's 11% that said salary was the reason they retired 2 years ago. And then there's over 25% of the people who left saying salary. So it gives me pause to think that we're really falling behind, and we keep on, we do need to pay attention to those exit surveys and try to respond.
And we are doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're doing it ourselves. We're going to get 0%.
Yeah.
If they vote 3%, that's okay. We're going to get 0. We're going to be doing this lift all on our own. It's $500,000, and if we do it at all, right? So.
What do you think last year too was really the first year things started to change since COVID, and a lot of people probably made moves because things had opened up more and there were more opportunities.
It could be that they left teaching altogether for salary. I don't know.
Yeah.
We can ask that question.
Yeah, I think, things were very stagnant for several years due to the situation with COVID in one way or the other. And I could see where it would have been very advantageous to be on staff at a small school. And maybe with things changing, they made a decision to make a career change.
All right, if we're ready, we're going to go ahead and move into public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please be recognized. And when you come up, let us know what district you're in and your name would be appreciated.
Hey all, thanks for being here. My name is Leah Childress. I'm in the Hampton district. I am a parent of a first grader, and I just wanted to share some thoughts that arose while you all were speaking. So one is that, there's been a tremendous amount of effort to educate certain members of our community about the realities of funding a school in this district in which there is a tremendously unusual situation related to the state funding allocation. My request and my thought is that and this is particularly for the supervisors, that, both in terms of your role as responding to and advocating for your constituents, that you also really think about your role as an educator, that you are not just here to take what they say and say, that's it, that's what we're going to do, you don't like it, I'm not going to do it. That you also have a responsibility to help educate the community about what it takes to make sure the teachers can live in our county and can afford a house in our county and be part of a thriving community, because public education is the foundation of a thriving community. If we don't give students the opportunities that they need to be able to fulfill their potential, to recognize their full potential, we are doing a disservice to the entire society. So I guess I'm just here to request that when you get those calls from people saying, oh, please don't increase our taxes, that you maybe have a few talking points that can point to what's going on in the state with the budget, how unusual and unique Rappahannock is in the context of the state. If you need some numbers, I'll help you put something together. But just saying, maybe having that on hand is just really thinking about it. I'm sure that's challenging. Same for the school board members, if you're getting calls about, kind of concerns about taxes, but just having some of that, kind of owning that role as being an educator as well, not just the responder and advocate. So that's all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I'm going to speak for somebody who's not here who sent me a note. I don't mind going over there. Okay, stepping into my old PTO role, because the PTO served dinner to the elementary and high school today, and they're worn out and they've gone home. And they wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the 2025 RCPS PTO Fun Run is themed Climbing Together to build Rappahannock's future. And it's going to take place on March 24th to April 4th. They are aiming to raise $20,000 each for the high school courtyard renovations and elementary school enhancements, including a climbing wall, a mural, and a gaga pit. I don't know what that is. Fundraising sources include the Fun Run, grants, local sponsors, and community donors, with plans to incorporate students and local artists into the project to foster a school spirit and unity. And that's all I got. Can you answer anything else?
It's amazing.
And I assume it's all over social media.
The PTO group is amazing.
Yeah.
Change hats. Ms. McCool, do you have any comments on that public comment?
It's a good thing because this is public comment. All right. If we don't have anyone else, I'll go ahead and close public comment. And next we have board member comments.
I've said, most of what I would say. Again, I think it's important. I just hope everyone keeps in mind I'll repeat myself as we start down this season. I'm calling it the season of tightening our belts, because the county really does have a lot of projects ahead, and we need to pay close attention. We cannot. I look at Dr. Bolt's capital improvements report, and I see stuff from 1987. And then she startles me when she says something from 2000 was 24 years ago. I think 2000 was last year. But so seeing that kind of trend in our county, we really need to look at what needs to be taken care of and be smart about it. With regards to the school, it breaks my heart that we fight unfunded mandates. It's maddening, especially when I know how good the school is. I'm going to put myself out there. I think I'm one of the bigger cheerleaders for the school. So, yeah, I wish I had something more concise and wiser to say, but we'll do our best, and we hope that you do your best. Let me rephrase that. I trust and I know you'll do your best. So.
I have to say, echo my colleagues' comments. I was a little envious of the 1987 dates, because some of ours at the county level are probably more like 1887 dates. And so, and it's been a lot longer since we've done certain things. So I have to say, I hear the cry for capital improvements. I understand that cry very well. I hope we can figure out a way forward that's a compromise that we can all work together to be successful without incurring a lot of costs for our county taxpayers. I'd be curious to see the additional numbers when you have those together for us, and I always appreciate how very hard the school board and you and your staff, Dr. Grimsley, worked to bring this information to us together, and the incredibly welcoming attitude and entrance and arrangement that we encounter every year during the session. It's very gratifying and much appreciated. I would also just like to thank your staff that is ill, that worked so hard and didn't get to make their presentation, and commend them on modeling such excellent behavior and taking good care of themselves and people in their community by staying home when they're ill. It's very much appreciated, and I'm sure with a small staff like you all have, it's much appreciated too. Thanks everyone again for coming out this evening. It's always great to see everybody. I think it's a really super important meeting, and I wish there was a bigger crowd. Every year I wish there was a bigger crowd. I scratch my head when I hear in a county of 3,000 people, only 150 people responded. Those are micro numbers, and it doesn't make the path very clear when you then are taking the same appeal to a broader audience. But thank you everyone for coming out this evening. Really appreciate seeing you, and looking forward to working together as the budget continues to evolve.
I too would like to thank everyone for being here this evening. I always feel like we should do two of these, one right before the budget starts and then as you get like a month later. But it's just everybody's schedules are crazy, and we're working so hard on the budgets and trying to get the money straight in our minds that it just doesn't work out that way. I feel like this is my 6th year, I think, doing this, and we work very well together. I think the two, the school board and the board of supervisors, I think, respect each other, and I do appreciate that we all listen and hear what's going on, even if we don't think it's going to be a fun conversation to explain. And I do appreciate your comments of having a cheat sheet ready, because this is going to be, I think, a year that we have to really explain what's coming. And it is school and courthouse and, who knows what's going on with public safety, but obviously all three are extremely important for a small community like ours. So I will get my cheat sheet together, definitely. I did have a question. The young lady, is it Ruth, that took on the, her comments about from the students raised a little concern in my mind that, you know, technology and Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff. What happens next from the school board with the school liaison? Do you get back to her and then she gets back to the students? I don't know how that process works.
Yeah, it depends on the issue. If it's a direct, usually we'll directly get with her or report to her in the next meeting, but usually if it's something like that, I will get with Dr. Bolt and talk about it. Which the Student Advisory Council did bring this up in their very first meeting back in August. And Dr. Bolt was on that immediately, so that's something they're always on to enhance the connectivity and those things, which they did that. But we try to circle back to the student liaison and with any particular concerns or issues, and then they usually will meet with the principal periodically as well about any other issues and to bring up. And I think Natalie was too on the Student Advisory Committee as well, so they get to hear all of the concerns from all the grade levels, a lot of different students as well.
Nice to know it circles back around.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you can come up with some resolutions. The last thing I want to say is you and Mr. Curry spent so many hours, and I know they're not over yet, working with Richmond, educating everyone, putting out an op-ed that, boy, if you want to know why we're in the situation we're in, read that op-ed. Just give yourself a little time because it's long and it's detailed, but it's accurate. And I just want to thank you because I know it's got to be very disappointing to go to Richmond and talk to people and basically have your team going, yeah, you're right, we need to do this. And people you don't even know can just say, nope, we're not going to do that. And I just want to thank you because that was a lot of effort. And I know we're going to continue, and I know we're going to continue to fight, and we're going to continue to educate. But boy, I thought you had it this year.
Well, you sound a little defeatist. We're still working hard at that.
Still get it.
Well, the cap's not in the game now, right? It's you can get extra maybe budgetary dollars, but
oh no. So you know the way the budget works is the governor submits a budget that will never get adopted. It's a marker. The House puts together a budget. Theirs is the budget that will ultimately get adopted. But at the end of the day, the Senate puts together a budget that's different than the House and different from the governor. They squabble about it, make amendments to each other's budgets, and then about 10 people go into a dark, closed-off room, the conference committee, and they decide what's in the budget. And so that's where we are. We're at the conference committee stage, and we're making sure our advocacy efforts are aimed at those 10 or 11 individuals who are in that closed-off room.
need to send them some Apple House donuts or something.
None of it possible for us without Ms. Parker. Ms. Parker has helped steer the ship, our lobbyist, and you know, it's not our game, it's not our field. So she helped us learn how to play. There are many things that we have done over the last several years that are overt, and that we know that you need to talk to a certain person and file certain bills, and it's the behind-the-scenes process, understanding the behind-the-scenes process and the rules of the process, not real rules, but the way it really works, is where her guidance has been very helpful.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And if that's all from the board, I will accept the motion for adjournment from the Board of Supervisors.
So the school board members, do they have an opportunity for comment here?
Any board member.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we have a
Let's focus
meeting
on
we'll
that.
be commenting on. I don't know.
But anything you want the board
want
members
to
to
comment
hear?
now?
I just thank you all for coming. It's nice to be all together and listening, and we're working well together. Appreciate it.
I do too. Thank you. I do have a comment. Our budget is more transparent than it's been since 2000 when I came, and I encourage you to dig into it. You can get a copy of it. We're not hiding anything. And also, last year, I think it was last year, Dr. Grimsley created this FAQ page, which is probably not the title of it, but
Bonnie.
or Bonnie did. But anyway, okay, sorry, Bonnie. Bonnie did. There is a page which is a lot of very interesting questions and the answers to those questions. And it's a good thing to kind of roll through and hopefully easy to find. I'm sure it's on our site somewhere with some kind of title. We'll make sure there's a link somewhere on our homepage so that you can get to this thing. It's a lot of very good questions. They're very commonly brought up. And we continue to add to it as, the supervisors may get questions and then they forward them to us and we make sure they get answered and posted so everybody has the information. That's our goal, is to make sure the entire community knows what they have, right? So.
Anyone else?
All right.
You good? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second it.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to recess for 5 minutes to allow the supervisors to exit or change seats and for you to stretch. And then we're going to go to the regular school board meeting agenda, right?
Yeah.
Because it's still early. I'm not going to read this because we're all very familiar with it. Thank you for coming tonight. Tonight we are going to recognize our clerk and deputy clerk who is very sick, but we are grateful for Gail and for Michelle and what they do for us, keep us straight, and make sure all the I's are crossed and the T's are dotted. I'm just seeing if you paid attention or not. That was a test. I'm listening. We have a special gift for our. And so yeah, don't spend it all in one place. So anyway, it is officially the month where we appreciate it, but we're just gonna we'll appreciate you for at least 2 minutes at this meeting. So thanks for all you do for us. There's a long list of donations, and I'm not going to make Gail do this because we're celebrating her. And the total for this particular month is $18,455.
Good thing you didn't say that during the board meeting.
Bill Fletcher, $17,000 donated to the Ag Program and SIFT. Rappahannock County Farm Bureau, $500. And a host of staff holiday party giveaway prizes: B&B Signal, Dark Horse, Fox's Pizza, Green Roost, Hope Dunn gift bag, Lido's, TC Roby Construction, 211 Quickie Mart, Chick-fil-A, Victoria Cooper, and First Choice Plumbing. So we are appreciative as always of our donations, and we'll be voting on those officially in the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from January 14th and January 21st? We have a motion from Larry and a second. Ms. McCool. She moved on me. Is there any comment? All in favor, aye? Aye, opposed, no? And so ordered. Mr. Grove, did you have a chance to review the bills?
I have, and we're sitting at about 54%.
54%?
Yep.
Did you pull that down?
About 54% where we're supposed to be.
Good, thank you. The bills are in our attachments to the board docs, if anybody's ever curious to take a look. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Hubin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bynum. All in favor, aye? Aye, opposed, no. So ordered. Dr. Grimsley.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to invite Dr. Johnson to come up with her favorite presentation of the year.
The one that you love
the calendar
to do.
committee presentation.
Oh, great. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come talk to you about a proposed calendar for next school year. The first slide has a list of all of the people who participated in the process this year. Of course, the calendar is always geared towards making sure that we're providing instruction for our students, the best instruction that we can. So to that end, we invited our academic coordinator, Karen Ellis, to be the co-chair this year. So she and I work together with this group. It's amazing, of all the meetings that I have, this is the only one that I have 100% attendance when I'm like, what is it about the calendar?
It is so
It is important, but anyway, so lots of good participation there. So fortunately, none of the requirements have changed in regard to the calendar, so we're still looking at 990 hours. We are utilizing bank time for some of our school days because our average school day is 6.1 hours. So this year's process, again, we always start with reviewing the priorities. So always we want the calendar to be educationally sound and ensure we have enough instructional time to be prepared for the SOL assessments. Between last year and this year, one thing that we did note as a calendar committee is that we definitely need to look at building in more professional development time for our staff. We were hit with multiple competing initiatives this year with the Virginia Tiered Systems of Support, Virginia Literacy Act, and then some in-house initiatives, and just having the time to do that was not there this year. So we tried really hard to build extra PD time. It was also a priority to keep the current winter break based on where Christmas is falling, ensure that we're finishing up by that Christmas break. Later start date, that's always tricky for us because we do want to end the first semester at the holiday break. So we were able to hold it until the second week of August, so we felt like that was a success. Continuing to end the high school semester at winter break. The workday to allow teachers to plan for second semester, that one kind of maybe they're not, depending on which calendar version we go with this evening. And then there is the wish to end before Memorial Day, but if we're going to have the later start date and include the November break along with the spring break, that's just not going to be an option. So those were our priorities. And then this year, as far as a draft calendar, we only went with one draft originally this year because after we looked at the main thing that we typically, I don't want to say squabble about, but the main difference between the two calendars has been the two shorter spring breaks versus the one longer spring break. So this year, based on where the Easter holiday was falling, it made sense to the calendar committee to go ahead and look at just the 1 week break for this year. So the calendar has 176 days in it, which is the same that we had this year. The original calendar had 2 half days for parent-teacher conference days. We did build in 8 professional development days, and then 1 work day at the start of semester 2, which is important to the high school teachers as they're kind of starting a new year over again. And then the original draft had 6 early release days. So we sent out the one survey basically just asking people for comments this year. So we had 103 respondents. You can see the breakdown. Majority of the respondents were parents. Next highest were staff members, even a couple community members there. So the themes that came up on the survey, and there's a typo there, it says 99 total, that should be 103, sorry about that. So we had 7 people in their comments request the 2 shorter spring breaks, 3 people who asked if we could try to end before Memorial Day, 9 people asking for the fewer half days, and we know that's been problematic with comments from parents in past years. 2 people asked for an earlier spring break, 4 asked for a later start date, but overall we had 54 people who liked the draft the way that we sent it out and said it looked just wonderful. So We didn't stop there though, because we're a dedicated team. So we thought we asked for feedback. So we came back together again to look at the feedback, because if you're going to ask for it, you should do something with it. So in order to try to address some of those concerns, we proposed a second draft that took the two half-day conference days and changed those into full days, because we did have teachers who do not like to have to work the first part of the day and then stay till 7 in the evening for conferences. There was a PD day and a student holiday in the month of March, so we deleted those two and then moved the spring break back a week so that it was the week that Good Friday falls on the end of that week, rather than typically we have a spring break after Easter or around Easter. But anyway, stay with me. So we moved spring break back a week, and then in doing that, we were still able to maintain 176 days. So I sent you guys the drafts of both calendars. So the calendar committee really did not have strong feelings one way or the other. We feel like we had a good calendar to start with. We took some feedback from the people who responded to the survey. The main thing that improved in the second draft was that we were able to get rid of 2 of the early release days in that. So we felt like that was a win for the parents that, were having difficulty with the early release days. So to that end, the calendar committee recommended draft 2. However, both drafts were good, and we are happy with whatever the board feels is most feasible. Any questions?
Any questions, anyone?
Okay, so just to be clear, the difference between the two drafts?
It's between the 2 drafts. So,
Right. So the second one gets rid of 2 of the half days?
yes.
And that's really the only difference?
And moves back the spring break.
And moves
A week.
back-
Move spring break to the last week of March versus the first week of April.
We're going with 176 days.
176 days.
Because of hours?
Yes, because we have additional time, we have beyond the 900 or the 180 days because of the length of our school day. Thank
I
you.
like the process that you described to go in multiple, to respond to the survey in the middle. I think that's a good process.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes.
It's a good result.
All right. Well, thank you for your consideration.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, 9.1 will be an action item later, so we will ask for your vote of either the recommendation, well, either recommendation really, but recommendation 2 for the calendar. Thank you, Dr. Johnson and Ms. Ellis. Good job. 9.2 is the Madison agreement. Every year we look at this agreement. It is shared between both boards from Madison County and this board as well. The superintendent of Madison, Anna Graham, and I have gone through the agreement and didn't make any changes. We think it is a good agreement at this point. A major win for Madison is the social histories that are conducted by our staff for them. They did have a huge uptick this year in those, so that's taken quite a bit of staff time for those. But we are grateful for the contiguous county agreement we have, because this makes our supplemental basic aid possible. We would not be able to receive it otherwise. So I will ask for approval of that agreement and sign on the dotted line and send that over to Madison. And we have to send that to the state as well to ensure to unlock that money.
Any questions? No?
That's it.
Thank you. All right. Any ideas on the business honor roll nominations? Anyone have any ideas this year? We did this last year. We've routinely done this.
I've run out.
Yeah.
Can you think of anyone this year?
I feel like we have such broad-based support. among businesses.
My suggestion would be to nominate the person who has volunteered the prom location.
Ooh,
Good
is that a
idea.
business?
It's a nonprofit.
That, we've done nonprofits before, so the
She
person
said
that's put
the
up
person
the,
that- Yeah, the person that's offering the prom location for
that's a
free.
great idea.
It's a-
Great idea.
That would be my
Sounds like a winner.
We just need to know the name of them again.
Matt needs to, yeah,
And that's what her foundation.
next one.
Good, so, but we're gonna have to know the name if we're gonna make a motion to do that later.
At the next meeting, I think you still have time to do that. At the next, so we put it up for,
Your ideas now and then.
yes. So you have until, so in March, we'll make an
We'll
official
table
vote,
that.
fill it out. But we wanted this on your radar so that you can come up with ideas. But that one does sound,
Yeah, it's great. It's a great
Great.
idea.
okay, good. So next meeting, yep.
Good. So we'll finalize that and vote on it. So 13.3 will be tabled to next month. Great. Well, thanks, Ms. McCool. Very good. Is there a report from Headwaters?
There is. Can I just talk like this and people can hear me? Yeah. Okay. The Smart Summer Camp started registration yesterday, and there are already 62 people signed up for it. And it's open to students and employs older students as counselors. As that spoke of, it's going to be capped at 110 for each day this year, and the registrations are first come, first served. And then the high school scholarship applications are open now, and they're open until February 28th. And this year, Student Success Allies are working with the seniors to help them present themselves well to the scholarship committee and to access the wonderful funding opportunities for students' diverse post-graduation goals. So that's a new thing where they're helping them to prepare really good applications and working on their essays, which is a good idea. And then after school, it's grown to 60 students now for this semester, and it runs Tuesday to Thursday and includes READ and other student electives. That's all I have.
Rachel, did you say the scholarships close
At
on
the end of the month.
2/28?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I also wanted to say that Ms. McCool and I both met together with Ms. Jenkins this time.
Good, good, good.
Getting your
Good.
chops.
Good.
So Rachel just disappeared.
All right, thanks. Mountain Vista?
We meet Thursday,
Um,
weather permitting.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board this evening? Anyone? Anybody want to talk to the board about the budget this evening? Anybody? Is there a motion to approve the school calendar draft 2? We have a motion, Mr. Grove, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. McCool. Any comments? Great job, ladies. I know you're excited to take on that task every year, so controversial. You keep drawing the short straw. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Is there a motion to approve the Madison agreement as was presented?
So moved.
We have a motion for Ms. Bynum. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Rubin. Is there any discussion? Thanks. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. 13.3 is tabled to next month. Is there any new business? Are there any requests for future agenda items? I guess we'll get an update on the roof solar panel thing next month.
Yeah.
That'd be good to know.
Yes.
That's exciting.
I have one little thing.
Do you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just a shout out to Sperryville Fire. The flagpole has been without a rope for God knows how long. And we finally got it a weather day that we could get up there and put the ladder truck up and put a new rope up.
Thanks. The next school board meeting is in public hearing on the budget will be March 11th, 6:30 in the same room. Is there a motion to go to closed session?
I move the board convene in closed session for the following purpose: discuss will consider the appointment of staff to classified positions, resignation of classified positions pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1.
We have a motion, Mr. Crozier, second. Second, Mr. Rubin, all in favor, aye? Aye, opposed, no. And we're going to go into closed session. Another room. We'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll be done. Discussion in closed session to certify.
Rich Newman certifies.
Richard Bynum certifies.
Wesley Mill certifies.
Missy McCool certifies.
During closed session, we received personnel report. Is there a motion to adopt personnel report as we receive it? Motion, Mr. Rubin, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. McCool, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. So orders their motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Ms. Bynum says we should adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. McCool, all in favor, aye? And we're done, thanks.